Hello. Welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn, and today I'm going to flip the Spellbinders March 2026 club kits. Here's a quick look at the 4 cards that I will be making, and as per usual for my flip videos, I'll be featuring a flat card, a layered card, an interactive card, and a pop-up card. Today I'm using the small die of the month, large die of the month, clear Stampin' die of the month, 3D embossing folder, and the Better Press Club. Also, I'll be using the extra little freebies that you get if you are an All Crates subscriber, meaning you actually get all of the club kit. Okay, so let's start off with my flat card. And I define a flat card as your card base plus at most 1 layer on top of that and flat embellishments if any at all. Now, this is a quick overview or look at the club kits that I'll be crafting with. I don't get everything, but Spellbinders is kind enough to send me the All Crates bonus goodies, which this month I think are really fabulous. And in fact, I'm going to feature both of the little extras in my first card here. Now, one thing that you'll notice, this is actually the first time I'm seeing the new press and foil packaging. Pretty slick, pretty cool. And you may remember there used to be glimmer plates and better press plates, but since better press plates also hot foil, they kind of do it all. So now we have press and foil plates. Now, because of how I've defined my flat card, I'm gonna make an acetate front for my card. So all I did was cut this piece of acetate to 4 1/4 wide by 6 inches tall, and I scored it at 1/2 inch so that I have a 1/2 inch glue tab that I can now fold over the top of my better pressed panel and create a top folding card where the front is clear. So now I have the benefit of still being able to use that better press panel, which is like a very fun kind of pixelated comic booky look, and I can still layer all of these die cut elements on top of that, and it would still be a relatively flat card. It would still qualify for my definition of a flat card because now that acetate is my card front. And so this cloud shape here is actually from the small die of the month, and I'm just going to white heat emboss on top of it a sentiment from the clear Stampin' die of the month, which reads, "The sky is the limit," which I thought was really kind of cool and a very encouraging sentiment. And I am sort of engrossed in making birthday and encouragement cards because all month long, Cards for Cubs, which is a nonprofit organization, is collecting cards to send to foster care agencies who will then in turn give those handmade cards to kids in the foster care system. So this month's club kits are really fantastic. There's some superhero themes, there's lots of birthday things, and I just thought so many of these would work so well for some of those kids. So one of the things that if you're going to use acetate where the back of it's going to be visible, you kind of have to be strategic about how you place your glue because it's going to be visible wherever your glue lines are. And whenever that's the case, I pull out my Xyron sticker maker, or in the case of this larger cloud, which wouldn't fit through my Xyron sticker maker, I just I just die cut from some acetate or adhesive sheets. So you can buy like full 8.5 by 11 sheets of adhesive, and they have a liner on both sides. And so I just use that, die cut it, and now I have the exact right shape. Now, normally you would want to maybe stick your cardstock onto that double-sided adhesive sheet first and then die cut, but I forgot. Well, really, I didn't forget. I just didn't realize that this larger cloud wouldn't fit all the way through the Xyron. But you can see once I burnish the adhesive, because it's adhesive edge to edge on all of those die cut pieces, on from the back, it looks uniform. And there you have it, a clear front flat card with some awesome die cuts layered on top. Now, onto my layered card. So this, I love these Converse shoes. I love that. I think it's usually the large die of the month, which this month too, it's also the large die of the month. All the different shoes and footwear that we get. This one kind of has to be my favorite. These, well, I see them as Chucks or Converses. And I remember owning a pair of black ones that mysteriously, I don't know how I managed to, but mysteriously I lost them when I was visiting my family in Virginia. It's wild. I don't know. The house isn't that big, so I'm not sure how I managed to lose both, like an entire pair of shoes. But with this card, I kind of recreated that one, except that mine didn't have the red. I thought red would be a fun little accent. And so this is going to be a really simple card. I've just used, actually, I have a bunch of, there are these pre-made card bases that they're just really convenient and nice to have. I almost forgot that I even have these, but I pulled them out for the card drive because we had a 12-hour card making marathon and I wanted to make cards a lot, as many as I could, but I didn't want to sit and make a ton of card bases. So I remembered that I had these and I have them in really bright, fun colors. So that's what I pulled out to use here. And I'm just going to combine the shoe with, again, one of my favorites, the foam hand. And it's cute. It's you can put the number 1 on there, and I just think that's gonna be so much fun for really any kid. But one of the things that I don't feel like I have a lot of in the cards that I've made so far for Cards for Cubs is cards that would be good for teens and guys in particular. So I thought this one would be great for like a teenage boy. The sentiment, it's one of those sort of deboss plates and it says "You are super," which I think is really awesome. I think because it's part of the small die of the month, that's also where I got the stars from. It really goes well with that, but I think it could go well with anything. And I think it's a good reminder and hopefully something uplifting and encouraging for kids who might be in the foster system. Okay, so now onto my interactive card. Now, this is probably one of the easiest interactive cards that you could make. Again, I'm going to start off, I actually better press quite a few of these panels just with different color combinations of better press inks. And so I've got like quite a few. I only used a couple, but I've got this one, which again, I'm going to start it off on one of those colored pre-made card bases. Oh, actually this one, yeah, I think this is a pre-made one. One of the nice things about these pre-made card bases is that it's color on the outside, but it's actually white on the inside so that you can write a message and you don't have to, unlike using like a regular solid color cardstock, you don't have to add, an extra white panel to the inside where you can write a message. So these pre-made card bases actually are pretty convenient to have. They're not super thin, but they're not very thick either. I would gauge it at maybe 80 pound. But once you get a couple more layers on top of it, it does start to feel substantial. So I'm going to start off with my better pressed panel. And then in the small die of the month, there's, let's see, there's four different sentiment plates that you can use, and even the little die cut banner with the double fishtail ends. Those are really convenient. It's a really nice size. And I like that they're separate too, because there's actually 2 cm per each, size of banner. But those banners become super universal. You can use them for, you could also use them if you wanted with the clear stamp of the month, if you didn't want to use like the close cut. And this die set is meant to be a dancing one. So where you see the legs, there's sort of that hole at the top. All you have to do is put a foam dot, and I'm using the We Are Makers. This is such a handy little tool. This dot setter is so awesome. And, I'm just going to go to town on the foam here. Because I can, and it's so fast to do with the dot setter. It does come in this cool tin. You do get some foam dots. Now, I've got some that are generic. I think I got them on Amazon, and it does work better with the foam that comes with, which you can get anywhere, as it turns out. It's just, a particular brand. And the one that I got actually happens to be thicker than the one that comes with the dot setter, and that does make a difference, as it's just marginally very, very slightly thicker, but what that means is that it doesn't kind of detach from the setter as easily as the as it would if you use the foam dots that it's actually compatible with. But it still works. It's the same size foam. It's just in terms of the diameter, it's just thicker. But as you saw, I think I was using some from both, and they work just fine. And once you kind of put that, you kind of hang her legs on that foam dot, and then top it off with the skirt of the superhero. Then the legs are free because it's just sort of hanging on that foam dot. It's free to swing back and forth, which is kind of fun. So again, I'm gonna just be very liberal with the foam dots to really make sure this is well stuck down. And normally you can just peel this off, but if you're using the foam dots that come with, so you would just stick, and then the liner will come off as you pull up. But if you're not using the right or the 100% compatible foam dots, you might need to actually push the trigger down in order to make that foam stick. So that's it for the interactive part of this card. It's just that easy. You just hang whatever you want to swing back and forth onto a foam dot. And everything else that's kind of glued around it does need to get lifted with that same thickness of foam. And the final thing that I'll add to this is a sentiment. This is one from the clear stamp of the month. And again, I just white heat embossed it onto some colored cardstock. And this one says, "Have a super birthday." So if you're not familiar, Cards for Cubs is a nonprofit organization that was started by Barely Arts. And all month long, during the month of March, they collect handmade cards. And the goal this year is to raise 100,000 cards. And at the time that I'm recording this, we're pretty just close to... we're still within the first week of the month, and almost halfway to that goal. We're at 47,000, which is amazing. If you missed the March 2nd 12-hour card making marathon, that was an absolute blast. We started that day off at 35,000 cards, and Barely Arts and Cards for Cubs made an email announcement, and by the end of the marathon, I think we were up to 42,000. So pretty fantastic. All right, so this is my pop-up card, and if you caught the experimental episode of Crafty Fun Live, it was the debut of a game that I don't know if this will make it into the regular rotation of games, but the name of the game was Crafted It, kind of like a twist off of the baking show Nailed It. And this was the card that I gave to people to try to replicate on the fly, having never seen it before. So I think it's called something like a corner pop-up card. I have my template here, but I'm going to actually modify my template a little bit. Whatever size card you want to create, just add, well, in this case, what I did, a slight alteration from my template and what I told the designers on Crafted It, but I decided to cut this at 2.5 inches taller and wider than the size of card that I want to make. And so since I'm making an A2 size card, I want to add 2.5 inches in one direction. So 2.5 inches in terms of by the width takes it to 6 3/4, and then you add 2.5 inches to the height, and that brings you to 8 inches. And then what you want to do is score 2.5 inches along one edge, rotate 90 degrees, score 2.5 inches along that edge. So along the top edge and along the side edge. And then you need to score this diagonal line. So the diagonal line, what you want to do is make a mark that is 5 inches on two sides, and then you just connect those lines so that when you fold this down, you want your horizontal and your vertical lines to be mountain folds, and you want that diagonal line, this one right here, which is 5 inches down and 5 inches over from that corner that we have, and that should be a valley fold. So mountain fold your top line and your side, valley fold your diagonal line, and it should start to sort of collapse in on itself to give you this. So now that we have the base, we can start to decorate it. And what I've done is I took the 3D embossing folder, which is this kind of cool, sort of like a city map. And what I did was I brushed my white ink pad over the raised lines on the embossing folder, and then I emboss so that it gives you this look where the white is actually the recessed part of this design. It makes it so that you can really see all of the pattern. So I'm going to cut this panel down. I'm going to cut a few of them actually, to 4 by 5 1/4. And I want my the front to be kind of substantial because you're gonna lift this up. So I'm gonna double this up with just some plain black cardstock. Now, I didn't really think about it in advance, but I ended up adding a third layer, and I didn't really need to add a third layer, or what I really should have done was glued this in a different order. I should have sandwiched that teal square between those two layers, that plain black and the embossed black, because once you open this card, you'll see towards the end that I wanted to decorate it a little bit more on the inside. But I've got another bit of that sort of map embossed panel. And I thought this was a fun little card because it's almost like you're unfolding a map. You know how crazy it is when you start to unfold a map. You can never really get it back in its original shape again. But I thought this particular fun fold card would be a little bit reminiscent of unfolding a map. But what I'll do is add a pop-up stand to it and add a little extra sentiment to it. So let's first just get this front panel on here, and I'm just going to try to hold everything down flat, and that way I can really center this, because again, this embossed panel is smaller than my card front. I do still want a little bit of that teal base to be visible all the way around, and I want this to line up with the embossed panel that I put on the inside of the card, so that you don't see that initially. The better press of the month is all sentiments, and large ones too. So what I did in advance was I glimmered them, because remember, you can hot foil your better press plates, and so now basically we only have better press plates. Now they're called press and foil plates, because they can do both, rather than having, if you remember before, we used to have the Better Press Club and the Glimmer of the Month, but now we just have the Better Press Club, and those plates can be, used for both. So I've glimmered them with, I like the size of these sentiments, and they're really, all purpose. They have mom, dad, Mother's Day. You could do Mother's Day, Father's Day, birthday. So you can kind of mix and match these words to create a variety of different sentiments. And they're a nice big size too, which for glimmering I think is great, so that you really have a lot of that shiny foil that catches the light. So I actually have this foiled in, I've got a set in blue, a set in gold, and a set that's in rainbow foil, actually. So I took best ever from my gold set, and then I took the birthday from my rainbow set of glimmered sentiments. I like to, if I'm going to turn on the glimmer and have it heat up and all of that, I'm definitely going to glimmer a few times. It's just so that I have a lot of options. And so here's where you see that I added yet another panel, and I could have conserved a little bit if I had thought a little bit in advance, because instead of gluing that first panel on the front to plain black cardstock, I could have, as I mentioned, just used that plain black cardstock here instead. But I'm actually kind of happy with how this looks, because it's nice to have that design on the inside as well. But the main goal of this is that I didn't want to see the teal square. I wanted something a little bit more solid here. And I did make some teal Converse shoes, of course. They're super cute. So I just really like these shoes. And I think, I think that any teenager would love these, but I don't know what teens are wearing these days. I just remember loving my Chucks when I had them. And it makes me want to get another pair to replace the ones that I lost. But what I did was I've got some construction weight acetate here, and it's cut to 1/2 inch, and it's probably about, I would say, maybe close to 4.5 inches long. And I used some strong score tape to adhere that onto that triangular portion of the inside of the card. And I'm going to stick birthday on there, making sure that while it's closed, you won't be able to see the sentiment. And then that way, when you open this up, birthday kind of just hangs out in mid-air there. And I'm going to use my foam hand to point to it. Not that you would miss it. And then I'm going to add this additional sentiment, kick back and enjoy. So the full sentiment will read, best ever birthday, kick back and enjoy. So I thought this would be a fun little pop-up, a little bit double duty of a fun fold. I definitely wanted to do a little bit of a tutorial video on this fun fold, because It was featured on Crafted It, and if you didn't see that episode, was it was really fun. But we'll see if I do it again. But what I did was I invited some of my crafty friends on, and I showed them a short video of that was posted by another designer whose name I've now forgotten, but she is who I drew inspiration from. And all they were allowed was to see that video a couple times, and then they had to try to recreate it. It was fun to see, but I could see how that's a tough challenge. So here's a final look at the 4 cards that I made today. So my flat card is a clear front card, which is a great way to sort of cheat the definition of a flat card and still get a lot of layers. This is my layered card, which I absolutely love. I think this will be a really fun card for any teenager, and that's definitely going to go into both of those will go into my stack of cards for the Cards for Cubs drive. This one I think would also work great for I think an older teen, and so this one says, have a super birthday. And then finally, this one says, best ever birthday. Kick back and enjoy. Now, I don't know that I'll include this for Cards for Cubs, mostly because if they're in the foster care system celebrating a birthday, I don't know that they would necessarily feel like that's their best ever birthday. But I do love this card, and I have to send it to somebody because I just think it's a lot of fun. Or maybe I'll keep it because those teal chucks are pretty cute. Thanks so much for checking out my video today. I'll leave links to everything in the description box below. Until next time, happy crafting and have a fabulous day. Bye.